Okay. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for coming to this session. This is the Making the Case for the Cloud for the Enterprise IT and the Enterprise Stack. I'd like to welcome you all, and I'm humbled and privileged to be here. There are amazing sessions throughout the conference, so thank you very much for coming here today. I'm Jinesh Varia. I'm one of the technology evangelists at Amazon Web Services, and I would like to say the breadth and the variety of Amazon of the customers and the use cases truly amazes me every single day. And in the 6 years I've been at Amazon, I've focused on meeting and talking to lots and lots of customers and learned quite a lot. And in this presentation, I'm going to share with you, these lessons learned from different enterprises and different customers that I have been talking to recently. I'm going to share with you 8 hints, tips, practical techniques that you can go and execute yourself. These are simple, obvious tricks, but extremely powerful when you want to make a case for the cloud within your organization. So this will be followed by lots of different case studies from the enterprises as well. And I have 2 excellent senior executives from Nokia, Siemens Networks, and McGraw Hill Education to discuss their journey towards the cloud as well. So without any further ado, let's get started. If in a typical enterprise, this is the view from their desk. The product teams are coming for additional capacity. There are legacy applications that the customers had to manage. There are product and finance engineering guys that are continuously convincing the enterprise IT to optimize and save on cost and reduce their cost overall. So in order, and you can see that it is extremely important, if you are a representative of the enterprise IT organization, how important it is for you to continuously drive efficiencies, increase your efficiencies as well as reduce cost, reduce operational overhead, and also at the same time make sure that you are focusing on your business versus worrying on the things that don't really differentiate you, like the data centers. So most of the enterprise IT organizations that I talk to, they're all building a cloud strategy. Some of them have mandates and that to complete within a year or so. So building a cloud strategy is not a difficult task. You will see most of the enterprises today, if they're building the cloud strategy, one of their internal cloud champions will be taking up the ownership and then understanding what are the different processes and applications that can be moved, and then makes the case for the cloud. There are different ways to build a cloud strategy. I'm going to share with you one of this today. So new applications which are greenfield applications, can be built with the cloud-ready design from the ground up, from get-go, and then they can take all the advantages of the cloud itself, like auto-scaling, elasticity, instant on, developer productivity increases, pay-as-you-go, and so forth. So there are several different sessions today at reInvent focusing on new applications and architecture sessions on how to build great architecture, cloud architectures on it. However, there are existing applications within the enterprises, and they can too take the same benefit of elasticity, scalability, and flexibility of the cloud itself. And there are different strategies around moving and making the case for moving existing applications, existing packaged applications to the cloud. And so let me share with you a few tips, and we are going to focus more on the existing categories itself so that you can make the case for the cloud internally much more effectively. So that comes to my first tip of the day. As I shared with you, I'm going to share with you 8 different tips today. This is my first tip. The first tip of the day is pick your no-brainer to move application workloads first. In every organization, you will find there are different types of workloads, and there are different styles of workloads. And you will see there are certain applications which are extremely easy to move. They are self-contained web applications. Some of the examples that we see typically in the enterprise today are dev and test applications, marketing campaigns, and pre-sales demo portals, and so forth. So the first tip of the day is identifying and moving those applications first, gaining confidence, getting some quick wins that will make the case for the cloud much more effective in your organization. Now, for certain other applications which are much more complex and much more difficult to move in a enterprise setup, you might want to have a planned migration approach. And in Andy's keynote, you saw that there are several different organizations have a 2-month, 6-month, 1-year, 2-year planned migration path to move these applications to it. And some of the typical entryways that we see in the enterprises today are these. There are several different use cases that we have seen, every imaginable use case possible. These are the 5 things which we see quite often, almost every day. And I call these cloud entryways for the enterprises. Backup and storage, data analytics, web apps, business apps, which are commercial off-the-shelf apps, and mobile and video. So this is my second tip, which I feel one of the most important one when it comes to understanding what you already have. So it's about classifying your IT assets, listing down your IT assets, creating a simple whiteboard diagram or an Excel sheet that lists all your IT assets, creating a dependency chart of which IT assets or workloads are connected to the other workloads, and so forth, and how you can take advantage of by categorizing them into different categories based on data, compliance, licensing requirements, low, medium, high, and other requirements around it. This is a very pragmatic, practical approach towards understanding how you can know what you currently have. The distinct advantage of doing this exercise is that you will know and you will have visibility into what you currently have and how you can move few of those applications and quickly learn and stack rank those IT assets up the stack so that you can say, these are the ones I'm going to move first, and then the other ones I will learn and then move later on. So classifying your IT assets, your data, your workloads, and into different categories, and then understanding the sensitivity aspects, and then understanding which applications you can move is one of the things that we have learned a lot from enterprises doing that. So once you have classified your applications, and once you have, you understand the different levels, you will realize that within your portfolio, there are a number of different applications that can be moved very quickly. And then you need to do a prioritization exercise. So there are 4 things that we have seen enterprises do today. First is how they prioritize migration is that the first thing that they look at is that if the application has the immediate business need to scale or it's running out of capacity. Or the second thing that they see is application that is at the end of a hardware refresh cycle, that there is end of a contract. They hit the rod while it's hot. The application that is running on a software refresh cycle, SharePoint 2008 needs to move from SharePoint to SharePoint 2010. So at that time, they decide to move to the cloud. They stack rank the IT assets up the rank on that list that they create. The third thing that we typically see how they do is they take advantage of these legacy applications that have been acquired through acquisition. They take advantage of that to consolidate that in the cloud. And I'm going to share one example quickly with you. And the fourth way to prioritize these is that how each of these are, now they take into consideration each aspect of which application component can be auto-scalable and they can turn off at night and save money. So those are the simple 4 ways we see that how they prioritize their application. We're going to make all these slides available on SlideShare. All of this content is available so that you can hack. So anybody who is taking pictures, you're more than happy to take them. But all the slides will be available on AWS, slideshare.net/Amazon Web Services. So taking into consideration how Thomson Reuters made their case for the cloud for asset consolidation. Thomson Reuters is serving more than 5,000 companies for their webcasting needs, for distributing the financial quarterly reports for different companies around the world. And they have acquired several different webcasting companies in the last 10 years, and they decided to make the case for the cloud by asset consolidation. They consolidated all their IT assets in one place and built a platform that actually not only helps them scale faster. It previously took 200 concurrent users maximum. Now they can serve up to 5,000 concurrent users, 2,000 concurrent users, not only scale their application, not only consolidated their IT assets into a global webcasting platform, but also reducing their operating expenditure by more than 50%. And this is the key. Making the case for the cloud for asset consolidation is one of the typical things that we see in the enterprises today as they want to move towards the cloud area. The other typical areas that we see is that how they take advantage of the cloud for basic backup and storage needs. Right? And this is a use case that we had, and I was personally involved with that I'm really excited about sharing with you, that how Amazon.com, how we drink our own champagne, and how we build our applications so that we not only classify, after a big classification exercise, we understood some of the applications are very quick that can be moved. And one of the use cases is backup and storage. This is the diagram that you're seeing that we had earlier when all of Amazon.com Oracle databases were being backed up. There was media management software, there are tape robotic libraries, there are offsite management. Imagine how many databases Amazon.com has today. Today, all of these databases are now backed up on Amazon S3. They have got rid of all the media management software, tape robotic libraries, and using simple things like Oracle Secure Backup and other things to back up all the databases in the cloud. They not only increased the efficiency and reduced the operational overhead by cost savings, but most importantly, they increased they reduced the restore times, which was one of the most important metric that we were measuring when anything wrong happens. They want to restore the databases quickly. So by doing this exercise, they made the case for the cloud by ensuring that they are not only just focusing on reducing cost, but also increasing efficiency and reducing operational overhead. So that's tip number 2. And now tip number 3 is one of my favorite ones that most of you might be also having lots of questions around. Security is most often number one concern that comes up when we talk about enterprises, and it's a more genuine concern. And understanding that security is really important to understand from your application perspective. There are several different talks happening today on security. Most of them will be focusing on how you can implement it granularly. What are the likelihoods of your threats? What are the threats? How you can actually mitigate them as well as take advantage of those. Basic security and compliance aspects around you own the data, it's not Amazon, you have complete granular control over the data, you have ACLs, you have VPC that helps you isolate the network in a very effective way, and so forth. But what we have seen as a tip that I would like to share with you is if you involve your security teams early in the process. And this is one of the most important things that we see because it's really getting this set of people to understand what these set of new rules are, and how you can actually reduce the perimeter of your application security needs from the entire firewall or from the entire data center security to an application level security. How you can take advantage of some of the granular security, whether you have complete control over it. So involving your security teams early in the process is one of the most important things we learned from our enterprise and negotiations and conversations. Right? So this is how Toshiba Medical Systems made their case for the cloud. Now, Toshiba Medical Systems is one of the largest manufacturing companies for healthcare equipment. And following their very stringent compliance and regulatory processes in Japan, they had to make sure that they not only did the complete TCO analysis, but also they had around 200 different compliance requirements, ensuring authenticity, ensuring preservability, ensuring that the security of each and every component that actually stores and backs up in a third-party server, how they can actually take advantage of those by keeping the highest security standards and compliance. Right? So they decided to move to the cloud and leverage some of the key management technologies that they already had, because you in the cloud, it's bag of bits. But you can take advantage of all your existing technology, key encryption, and key management solutions, and leverage all the benefits to move data into the cloud in a more secure way. So by that, they were able to actually not only reduce their operational overhead, but also make sure that it is done in a security, in a highly secure manner. They did this by involving their security teams early and ahead in the process and understanding it much more clearly. Right? One of the hints that I absolutely love talking about is the fact that in order to resolve the network and getting the security experts in the same page, it's always great to start with the VPC. Once you start with the VPC, you will know that there are several different questions being answered directly from your network side of things. You start with the VPC and understand that making VPC as a part of your internal network, you get complete control of your data center as well as, complete control of the extension of the cloud that you have created with the environment. Autodesk started with VPC. They created a different way of building it as a part of their existing data center network. They had 3. This is the 4th one that is around VPC. As a result, they were able to move to better and bigger business models, and now they are actually they have already launched their own cloud on top of Amazon Web Services that allows them to do simulation and management and other things, offering their software as a service on top of the cloud. So Autodesk 360 is one of their new cloud offerings on top of the cloud. So you see how these large enterprises taking advantage of this simple tips and techniques to actually learn and to actually develop better products and new business models. Right? The 4th tip of the day is around the fact that most of people would know getting your TCO right. When you are doing your apples to apples comparison between your on-premises environment as well as your in the cloud, there is a different model. In order to do it right, it's very important to understand that you're not paying for powering, you're not paying for cooling, you're not paying for any operations, you're not paying for people, and so forth. So when we talk to lots of enterprises, we learn that they always miss on some of the aspects that they haven't encountered in the TCO calculations. So in the best tip in the TCO side, there are several TCO sessions today as well, and there are several white papers also available on the website. But the best thing that I would like to emphasize here is that you don't forget to involve people cost, power cost, cooling and pipes, and then make sure that you take into consideration the different patterns that you have. Not all applications are steady state. Not all applications are spiky, but you take into consideration the patterns and the projections and over a 3-year or a 5-year period, and you are taking into consideration the complete analysis of, you're doing a complete TCO analysis over its useful life of an application. So by doing the TCO correctly, you have an ability to move things much more quicker. And this is one of the ways how Samsung made the case, an economic case for the cloud. By Samsung, how many people own Samsung TVs? Cool. Me too. I just bought it on Thanksgiving. It's one of the, all the Samsung TVs have these smart TV operations, and they are doing their authentication through a service called the Smart Hub. And they did their TCO analysis early on, and then finding out how much they actually saved, and all the authentication that from the smart TV operations and tablet are happening through this service, and they need to scale globally. And in order to scale that, they had to do this extensive TCO analysis to find out whether it is going to help them or not. And they found out that they will have to spend an additional $34 million if they were going to keep the service in-house. By doing a complete TCO analysis of understanding projections and patterns and very spiky nature of this business, they have to understand and calculate it in a right way. So it's extremely important to understand and doing your TCO correctly. We have TCO experts in here today as well, so please feel free to get in touch with us if you have any questions around TCO. So this is my fifth tip of the day around business applications, around packaged applications. Every enterprise today has these thousands of applications that either they have acquired through acquisitions, or they are running in a small corner around in the data center, or these applications are not yet cloud ready, so to speak. They understanding what those applications are. Now, understanding their hardware requirements is not the way to go. Rather than understanding what their application footprint is, will give you the best TCO analysis overall. Understanding that, understanding the licensing aspects, and then working with us or working with the vendor to see whether they have a cloud license, especially if you want to work in an auto-scalable fashion of that particular application. Understanding which component of that application can be auto-scalable and which component can run in a variable capacity mode. Now, those are some of the things that we highly recommend moving to some of to the cloud, because those are the biggest opportunity for cost savings and reducing operational overhead. Some of the things that I hear almost with several different customers, if not all, that these are applications that they don't have ownership, but they don't want to touch because nobody owns the source code, and it's just running because it's running, and I don't know how to manage them, so I don't want to move them. But if you make the case, and a tip of here is that if you pick the right partner that has the right specialization from our partner directory, that has the right competency on that, understands how cloud works, and understands some of the application needs that particular application has, they will do the best job in moving those applications, those commercial off-the-shelf applications quickly. And we have had several different customers take enormous pride in moving some of those applications so that they can free up capacity within their data center, as well as take advantage of take advantage of the auto-scaling and other benefits of the existing needs. Right? So one such customer, Lionsgate, most of you might already know, one of the largest media entertainment and companies. They did exactly the last three tips that I talked about. They did a complete TCO analysis. They found out that currently what they are paying is 50%. We can say 50% when they move to the cloud. The understanding that they started with the VPC. Understood licensing and other requirements that are required for the business in that. For that particular business, and they were able to move production workloads that are running SharePoint 2010 SAP applications to the cloud. Understanding these applications are extremely important and mission critical. At the same time, they're having an ability to move those applications in a very methodical way by leveraging the right partners here. Right. So the tip 6 of my talk today is all about enterprises moving towards this new land of mobile and video. We live in a defragmented world today, and there are multiple different devices, multiple different platforms to work with. And every single enterprise I talk to, they're making their case for mobile and video. And one of the stories, and one of the things that we see all the time is how they defragment the fragmented world of mobile and video through the cloud. And this is one of the tip of the day, that instead of seeing these as threats, enterprises are seeing this as opportunities, as new devices and new platforms are actually opportunities. So they're using the cloud as a consolidation platform. They're using the cloud as a content hub, distributing the content and leveraging the content in a more effective way through cloud. So one really cool example, one of my favorite examples, is Disney. Disney, as you might know, anybody who is a parent here would know the importance of of Disney content that been created and being distributed to their kids and distributed and to the different devices, so that you love the way how they produce great content. In this case, Disney is within the Disney facility, there is a slicer which slices content, stores that into the cloud, and distributes them in every different device possible without downgrading their user experience. So when a new device comes along, all they have to do is turn on a switch and provide exactly that particular transcoding as well as the format that that device is needing, so that it is having an excellent user experience for that particular device. All the things is hidden within the platform by, in this case, it was uplink. They're encoding all the master mezzanine file, which is stored in Disney facility, encoding all of that content, distributing content management, they're distributing through CloudFront, they are monitoring through CloudWatch, they are managing the content effectively, and also they're monetizing their content by injecting ads very, very specifically for that particular device. So an iPad user can actually get their ads streamed in the streamed video itself, rather than getting an ad hoc view or a pop-up or something which is not a great user experience. So they are having an ability to inject ads, having an ability to create a massive pipeline around distributing content and managing the content effectively, while making sure that their master record file and their mezzanine file is with them all the time. So this is a great use case of how they made their case for mobile and video, and how enterprises are leveraging the cloud and taking advantage of that. So my seventh tip of the day is one of my top favorites, because one of my top customers are going to be here on stage to talk about that. But before I bring Markku Lepisto from Nokia Siemens Networks, I want to talk about the importance of measuring return on agility. Return on agility and business agility is one of the key drivers within the enterprise that we see today. It helps you focus on your application much more effectively. If you are releasing things faster, you have much more higher competitive advantage. For example, if you are having an ability to release a product 7 months earlier than your actual scheduled time, you have 7 months of additional revenue and 7 months of competitive advantage overall. So agility and reduced time to market is one of the most important things which we see enterprises talk about when they are moving to the cloud. So now, how you measure return of agility is one of the key ways in which you can make the case for the cloud. And to that, I would like to invite Markku from Nokia Siemens Networks to show us and share their lessons learned on how they measure return on agility. Thank you, Markku.
Thank you, Jinesh. Good morning. I'm Markku Lepisto from Nokia Siemens Networks. So let's get down to it. What is Nokia Siemens Networks? Well, we are a company who specializes in mobile broadband products. Now, what does that mean? It means that we sell to the teleoperators, the carriers, right? We create products that are actually powering the telco networks. For example, we make 4G LTE networks that you can use with your mobile devices then. So we operate in the telco vertical. So what are the benefits of cloud computing for us? Well, there are many generic benefits of cloud computing, and those apply to us and our customers as well in the telco industry. The first of them is TCO. Jinesh mentioned TCO, and that is great. For sure, using cloud computing is cheaper than using legacy IT. And we thought a couple of years ago that that was the main benefit, but now we've learned that it's not the main benefit. It's good, but the main benefit is speed, agility. So if you use cloud the right way, if you have the right amounts of automation in your processes and in your toolkits, and you utilize the on-demand self-service capability of the cloud, then you can create more. Your R&Ds, your product teams can create more services, more features, and respond to your customer needs quicker. And that unleashes innovation, and it also lowers the cost of failure. And very interestingly, when you create more, you actually consume more. There's a kind of feedback loop that's called the Jevons paradox. You may want to look up Simon Wardley's presentation from ASCO and Ostrada. Very good explanation of this. So with this feedback loop, you actually probably end up spending about the same amount in IT as you did before, but I can guarantee you that you are achieving a lot more results. You achieve more. So what are the approaches that NSN applies when it comes to cloud computing? Well, we have two approaches. One of them is for our internal R&D, when we develop the products. Well, these were some of the pain points in yellow there. In the past, we used to spend up to 50% of the agile R&D sprint time just waiting for the lab to be ready, waiting for the test team to build the lab. We were using dedicated servers that were underutilized, and at the same time, they were bottlenecks for different teams. The automation levels, to be honest, were quite poor. There were gaps in automation. And what are we doing now? Well, now we are investing significant money and efforts in changing the mindset of how the people work in R&D, changing the R&D processes to utilize the advantages of the cloud, basically using DevOps methodologies, tooling and processes that suit the cloud better, going to continuous integration and even continuous deployment. Furthermore, we've given our R&D teams an absolutely zero approvals, self-service way of doing R&D in the cloud. Zero approvals means that, yes, we monitor how much they're using the resources, but we don't get in their way of doing their work. So they can immediately start doing development and testing without any manager pressing some approve button, because that would be slowing down the R&D. As a result, one example here is that our LTE R&D, who make the software for the base station, the 4G base station, well, they used to do 4 build and test cycles of releases in a month, so once a week. Now that they use cloud and continuous integration and full automation, the same team is able to do 6,700 build and test cycles in a month. So that's over 1,000 times R&D efficiency increase, thanks to moving the R&D operations into the cloud. Then there's another aspect, which is the product portfolio. So the products that we are delivering to our telco customers. What is our cloud approach there? Well, this is the high-level view. First of all is the infrastructure, the servers, the switches, the storage system. For many of our products in our portfolio, that is undifferentiated infrastructure. The value of the NSN products is somewhere higher up in the stack. So we are commoditizing this undifferentiated infrastructure and turning it into a utility that we consume as a utility. So infrastructure as a service. On top of infrastructure as a service, we run platform as a service. For example, for code execution engines, for common services like databases, message queues, Hadoop, etc. And now we actually have some R&Ds who are making new products from scratch, and these new R&Ds, these new teams are looking at platform as a service as the runtime environment. Using platform as a service, they can even further abstract away the undifferentiated lower levels of the stack and they can focus their R&D on their core business, which is creating new features and new code. And the legacy products, they are targeted, many of them, if there's a good business case, they are targeted for re-architecture, for design for failure. And typically that means infrastructure as a service then. The whole point of this sausage factory is to run the products. So now we are going through our portfolio, making business cases and re-architecting some of our assets to be cloud ready. They need to be designed for failure, so basically making reliable software on top of inherently unreliable infrastructure. So that's an R&D investment that we have to make. Some of the products that we are transforming are our OSS, Operations and Support System, and Customer Experience Management products. And why? Because those are using standard IT hardware, x86 Linux. They can be re-architected for the cloud. On top of that, we want to improve the developer access to the product services and data by exposing them through RESTful APIs. So API access is quite important in the cloud as well. Then quite interestingly, we actually made a new tool. So we built our own management system. We call it the Cloud Framework. This is an internal enabler that helps our R&Ds on-ramp quicker to the cloud. There are a lot of common things. We have something like several dozen product lines and products. All of them have the same needs. They need to be able to deploy their product on the cloud, run it securely there, auto-scale the performance, etc. So that's why we created this tool. On the bottom there, you can see that we are connected. So this tool has an account now connected to Amazon. And in this account, in this example, we are running a Cassandra, NoSQL, ring there, and one of the NSN products. So this tool that we made, it provisions the resources from the underlying cloud, EC2, S3, and it handles the application lifecycle management on top of the cloud. So deploying the application, doing the security settings, the firewall rules, key management, it creates X509 certificates, SSH keys, it handles configuration, fault and performance management. All of these are generic needs for any application. So our R&Ds can just use this tool, and they can focus on the code changes, which is the primary business of that product line. Good. So how are we using cloud computing to help the actual telco networks? Well, here we have a use case. There's a stadium. There's some interesting event happening, and a lot of people are congregating there. That's great for them, but it's a big problem for the telco network. So if you look at this kind of wave here, you can see that a lot of people in the same place, tens of thousands of people, is a huge spike for the radio network, the mobile network. And that can lead to bad quality of experience. So how can we alleviate this using Amazon and cloud computing? Well, here in this diagram, you can see the stadium, and the red color means that there's really bad network connectivity. People are trying to tweet, they're trying to use Facebook. If the game is boring, they try to watch Netflix. They can't. No matter how great is the Netflix architecture, it's fantastic. Unfortunately, the radio network is congested and they cannot stream the video. So what can we do to help Netflix and the poor people there? Well, orange means that it's a little bit better there, and green means that the network is quite good further away from the stadium. Well, then the white box is the teleoperator network. There's the radio access and core networks. That's the system that runs the mobile network. We actually create a lot of those products, right? So what we can do is that we can collect metrics. We have probes, we have logs, we have metrics collected from all these various elements in the network. We collect it, we obfuscate it. So basically we remove the sensitive bits of information like your phone numbers, your names. You don't want those flying around everywhere. So we remove the sensitive information. We compress the data, we encrypt it, we chunk upload it to Amazon S3. Why S3? Because then in EC2, we scale out our analytics engines that analyze the information from the network. And that analytics finds the problem at the stadium. And what is the point of this now? This is a telco service that is helping the telco network, but it's zero CapEx. It's pure OpEx. There's no upfront investment for the customer, and it's immediately available, basically. We can create a new tenant, a new customer, using this in Amazon in a matter of hours. In 1 or 2 business days, the telcos can start using this service. The traditional deployment type of time of telco services, time to revenue, is 6 to 7 months. And this is coming from our customers. Now using cloud computing, software as a service, we can shrink that down to 1 or 2 days. Okay, so we analyze the network quality there. And then we run the portal in Amazon as well. Using the portal, the telco customers can get insights into the health of their network. So they can see what is the quality of experience for their services and their network and for their customers. Furthermore, we can drive back actions into the network. And I think this is really cool. So we collect data from the network health, we analyze it in Amazon, and we drive back experience improving actions. What are the actions? For example, we can actually turn the base stations. You know, the base stations are serving your phones and your iPads. We can turn the beams of the base stations, we can turn them sideways, up and down, and even focus the beams towards the stadium where there's the hotspot identified. We can turn the radios towards the station. Secondly, we can tell some of the mobile devices to move away from the stadium. You're sitting at the stadium, there might be a signal coming from our systems, hey, phone, iPad, move to that base station which is further away. This is relieving the congestion near the stadium. So we hand over. Third really cool thing is called Wi-Fi offload. If the operator has installed network equipment, access points for Wi-Fi at the stadium, we can make them appear. We can dynamically control the wireless LAN base stations or access points. And when your phones see that there's a wireless LAN from your operator, they will switch the data connection immediately from the cellular network. They will prefer Wi-Fi. And this is, again, offloading your devices from the cellular network that's congested, and Netflix starts working at the stadium if the game is boring. So that's what I wanted to show. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jinesh.
Great. Thank you very much, Markku. So this is a great story around how business agility actually helped them drive more solutions for their customers, as well as increase R&D for their internal operations and innovate very quickly. So this is a great message. And so investing in the right tools, investing in the right automation has helped Nokia Siemens networks over here. So that now comes my last tip of the day, which is tip number 8. And this is one of the last but not the least. And very important one is investing in your proof of concept early in the process as well. Getting your feet wet with AWS, understanding that there are certain new terms and terminology as well as new areas that we have to explore in order to increase efficiency within your businesses. So in this case, I would highly recommend a proof of concept that will answer lots of questions to you. So with this, I would like to invite Jay from McGraw Hill Education to talk about how their story was and what was their journey to the cloud. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Great.
Awesome. Good job. Awesome. It's fine. Awesome.
So hi, I am the Vice President and General Manager for Digital for the Higher Education business at McGraw Hill Education. And I want to basically, oh no, it's still here because I'm loud. I want to share with you our story of how we made the case for the cloud and how we pushed it into our organization. So if you're sitting in this room or you're at this conference, clearly you get the cloud and you get the benefits for the cloud. I think my story to you is about how we convince a 124-year publishing organization that owns a variety of brands and a variety of products, and how we convince them, because they don't have the religion that we all share together. And hopefully, it'll give you some tips on how you can make the case within your own organizations. So we have a product called Connect, and it's our flagship personalized learning platform for the college business. It lets universities, departments, and instructors deliver fully online and hybrid courses, and that adapts the individual learner and then delivers delivers courses and learning to them in various subject areas. So one of the characteristics that we were facing is, our usage patterns are seasonal, but our usage growth was massive. So, we started Connect in 2009 with, about 100,000 students across the country. Over the last few years, we've grown to 3 million students a year, 5,000 campuses globally, and over 700 individual courses served. Our usage growth has been massive, so it's been growing at about 120% a year. And what was very significant about it, it was seasonal. Our peak periods would last 2 8-week periods within the years. So typically at the start of the semester, so from January to March, and then from August to October. And so clearly, this application was purpose-built and fit for the cloud. But then, how did we convince our organization that the cloud was the right thing to do? And I'm having...
Go on the right side and just...
Which one?
Actually, that's... Yeah, maybe can you hold it up a bit? Yeah.
Oh, there we go. So a few tips that we had learned is to get our organization convinced. Our organization had made massive investments in data centers over the last several years. We had a huge data center in New Jersey. We had a huge data center at the tip of Manhattan at 55 Water Street. And these were massive investments we had made. And so our typical strategy had been, in preparation for the fall season, would be in January to make an investment case, a CapEx case, to buy hardware in anticipation of the fall load and get it installed by the summertime so it would be ready for classes to start and students to come in. And so one tip that I have is as much as you can convince, as much as of a case you can make about the benefits of the cloud, desperation is almost a catalyst for change. And so we were sitting there in January and February, and we said, we had a huge CapEx budget to buy a bunch of hardware. And what we said is, given our seasonal patterns, let's make the case to move to the cloud. And so when we meant to make that case, the response I got back from our internal IT organization was, hey, we've got a private cloud for you. We can provide you with the same kind of services that an Amazon or any of these other cloud providers could provide. And we said, luckily, I was running this business unit that was high growth, so I said, that's great, but let me make a different case. And so what we did is another tip for you when you're making a case is have an internal champion that really can navigate all of the internal inertia of an organization. So one of my staff members who's sitting in the audience is Erica Eatman, and she really did a great job in making sure and being that internal champion to make sure that we can navigate all of the complexities of our organization. But the main thing that we made is when you have a conservative organization and you're trying to make a case for change, you make a conservative proposal. And so what we did is we said, clearly the advantages would be that we would align costs to usage patterns and we would turn fixed costs into variable. But some of the challenges we had is, our database was running on Oracle RAC, and Oracle RAC is not supported in the elastic, infrastructure of Amazon. And the other thing is the savings, although all of these benefits were theoretical, none of them were verified. So the key thing that we did is, when we went up through corporate, is we said, you have to prove that what you're saying is real. And so we took we took the first 2 months of the year, January and February, to do a very robust proof of concept. And so and the three things that we really focused on in that proof of concept is, one, is we took our Connect application and we said, we looked at the different subsystems in Connect, and we found that the core subsystem, which is our assessment engine, had 80% of the usage. And so we took that subsystem and we said, let's make that application work on the cloud. And so that was a key part of our proof of concept. The second thing we did was work with our internal IT department to work through all of the security rules, as Jinesh was saying earlier, to get that all resolved. And so because ultimately when we put this into production, it would be a hybrid. It would be a hybrid solution. Some part of the application would stay in our data centers. Other parts of the application would go to the cloud. And so we had to make sure all of those rules of how we talked between our data centers, between the cloud and our own data centers, was worked out. And then the third thing was we slammed it with a ton of traffic and a ton of load testing, right? Because given our usage growth and our massive usage growth, we had to prove that this new infrastructure would handle the unpredictable, spiky load patterns that we experience. And so the outcome of that was, by March, we had a successful proof of concept. In terms of the budget, one of the tips that I can give you is, we put in a conservative budget. And we basically said we would spend no more than we would have if we had bought our own servers in our own data centers. So rather than make big promises of double-digit savings, we said, we would just stay with the current budget and we would make it work in the current budget. And actually, within that current budget, we both developed, we worked with a great partner in Wipro to develop our architecture and our sort of how we would deploy the software, and we moved it into the cloud. And then we actually also bought the capacity and also went into operations, all within the same budget. So that's a tip that I can give you, is rather than make a lot of promises, stay conservative and then under promise and then over deliver. And then we launched this in July of 2012, well before the fall traffic hit, well before all the students were coming in and using our application. And during that time, year to date, we've been experiencing double-digit savings from our budget. And so that was a great story, and that's what actually won over our internal corporate colleagues and IT colleagues. But we went in conservative, and then we started down the path, and we've been achieving significant savings, and that's what won them over. Once it got into production. So this kind of gives you a diagram of our cloud architecture. So part of our architecture is, part of our application, the core Connect platform, is still based in our data centers in New Jersey. What we took to the cloud was really our core assessment engine, where we get 80% of our student traffic, where we get 80% of our student usage. And so we're striped between 3 availability zones in Northern Virginia. Now, one thing I want to point out here is data pipe. Given the fact that Oracle RAC wasn't supported in the Elastic infrastructure, we actually worked with Amazon and Wipro to contract with data pipe to effectively create a non-elastic service with data pipe. And you might be thinking that this might be a blocker. Now, what we said is, we wouldn't get all of the savings that an elastic infrastructure would give us, but we didn't use that as an excuse not to go forward. So our journey to the cloud has actually been really, really positive for us. One of the first tip that Jinesh had put down is go with your no-brainer applications, we actually didn't listen to that tip. We went with our biggest, most highly visible, highly growth application, and we just said, you know, we're going to do this, and sometimes that's what you need. And sort of having somebody on your staff who's an internal champion who just pushes it through all of the bureaucracy is somebody that I think you need to have when you do that. Because we basically went big, and we didn't really have a plan B. Because after that proof of concept, you know, there would be no way, if this didn't work, where we could light up additional hardware to make this work. So we took a gamble. But what it's given us is peace of mind, right? So we've had reduced cost, on-demand capacity, and the ability to keep up with high growth. So actually, our usage projections were conservative and understated, and we had a lot more usage than we expected this fall. Plus, we had things like Sandy. You know, our data centers were based in Manhattan, and if we had not gone to Amazon, I don't know what I'd be saying to you right now. We might be out of business because like half of our data center was drowned. Was how would we prove that going to the cloud was the right decision? And so many of the common things that you've heard already, you know, moving from fixed cost to variable cost, you know, aligning the costs to usage were clear and verifiable. I think the challenges that we faced were that one part of our application stack was not elastic, and so this was the Oracle rack. And the second thing was the savings, although they were theoretical, were unverified. And in a conservative organization, it's important to prove it. And so what we really focused on was doing a very robust proof of concept. And the three key things we wanted to prove out of that proof of concept was, one, would our application work on the cloud? And given that half of our application was still in our data centers, we had to make sure that once we put it into Amazon, it would work flawlessly. The second thing was, as Jinesh had pointed out earlier, getting security involved early. So we got our security teams involved during this proof of concept to work out all of the rules and work out all of the compliance to make sure that all of that was tightened up during the proof of concept. And the last thing we tried to prove was hit it with a ton of traffic. Because our usage growth was lights out, we needed to make sure that in the fall we would be ready for that, that our infrastructure and our application would be ready for that traffic. So fast forward after a couple months from January, by March we had proven the proof of concept to be a success. We also took the learnings of that proof of concept and we put together a budget where, rather than promise a lot of double-digit savings, what we said is we would spend no more than we would have if we had lit up and brought up new servers in our own data center. And that works in a conservative organization, under-promise and over-deliver. And that allowed us to get this budget approved and allow us to move to the cloud. In July, we launched the application. And year to date, and then all of our students started coming in mid to late August. And so far, I'm pleased to say that we've actually had double-digit run rate savings from moving to the cloud. In addition, the peace of mind that it offered around being able to handle more usage growth than we had actually anticipated was incredibly important. Oops. So this is our production cloud architecture. So we're in 3 availability zones in Northern Virginia. And we also work, our Oracle RAC instances, or Oracle RAC database is served up by data pipe very close to the Amazon data center in Virginia. And you know, the Oracle part of this, you know, could be seen as a blocker and could have, you know, tanked the project because we're not getting the elastic cost savings and benefits from having elastic computing. But we didn't use that as a blocker. We pushed ahead and we said, you know, let's get into the cloud and we could optimize later. And so and by working with Wipro and Amazon and finding this data pipe solution that worked very closely with our Elastic solution on the web and app tier, worked and made sense and let us move forward. So our journey to the cloud has been, so far, has been the right decision and has been a good one. But it took a lot to get an 124-year-old organization to be convinced to move to the cloud. You know, one of the things that Jinesh had advised us was to go with your no-brainer applications. We completely ignored that. We went with our biggest, most visible, highest growth application in the entire education business. And we said, we're just going to go for it. And we made it work despite a lot of blockers like the database issue with the Oracle RAC. Now, the peace of mind that it's given us has been tremendous. It's given us reduced cost, on-demand capacity, and allowed us to deal with the high growth. And you know, we actually had more traffic this fall than we had anticipated. And so we were able to be very nimble and light up more servers very easily, given that we were on Amazon. The other thing was Hurricane Sandy. Now, if we had gone with our own data center, half of our data center is in 55 Water Street. 55 Water Street during Hurricane Sandy had 10 feet of water in the lobby and flooded basements. And so I don't know where we would be today if we had not gone to Amazon. So that peace of mind of having uninterrupted service for our customers and our students was really, really important. So in closing, I just wanted to say that some really good tips is invest in a proof of concept early. And when you have a large traditional organization, a proof of concept lets you prove out the things, the benefits that you're claiming. And second, don't let blockers stop you from moving forward. You know, you're not going to have all the answers immediately. Like that Oracle RAC issue, rather than say, you know, if it's not perfect, we couldn't move it forward. We said, you know, we'll go with web and app tier, leave the database alone, and we'll optimize it in future releases. And that served us well and actually given us cost benefit. So with that, thank you, and I hope this was useful.
Thank you very, very much, Jay. This is an amazing lessons learned from McGraw Hill Education. Now, invest in the proof of concept early in the process and go with a let's do it attitude. There will be blockers, but you can optimize it later on and save significantly going forward. Again, thank you very much, Jay. So just to wrap up, there are the best ways to learn from our customers and customers who actually run this in production. And just to summarize the whole presentation, we learned several different services. There are several different ways that enterprises can leverage the cloud. These are the entry points that we see all the time. Key learnings from other large enterprises that we just shared was classify your IT assets. List your IT assets so that you have better visibility of what you have and what can be moved. Categorize them into the right categories. Now, pick the no-brainer to move applications. These are self-contained web applications. You can gain confidence. You can learn more about the systems. As well as in the process, you will have much more confidence to move bigger, better applications later. Thirdly, involve your security teams early in the process so that you can have all the security people are on the same page. It is extremely important that you start things with the right best practices so that they have better control, better visibility, and while reducing cost. the fourth tip, now in your TCO analysis, which is one of the most important things that a lot of customers do today before moving, is that you make sure that you do not forget your people costs, your powering costs, your power bandwidth costs, as well as take into consideration the projection as well as the patterns, or whether it's spiky, whether it's steady state, and so forth in your analysis, and then calculate your TCO in the right apples to apples comparison. Fifth tip is to, in order to move your commercial off-the-shelf applications, pick the right right consulting partner from our partner directory. It has the right specialization and competency for that particular solution, and has demonstrated experience for doing that. There are different partners. There are several different specializations and competencies available on our partner directory. They will give you the best experience and send you and build applications correctly. And last tip from my side was you defragment the fragmented world of mobile and video through cloud, and venture into new business models and new businesses, build new cloud services on top of the already highly reliable infrastructure cloud service, and then venture into new service models and so forth. And last but not the least, the key lessons learned from Nokia Siemens, from Markku, as he mentioned, business agility remains the key driver for enterprises. Investing in the right ecosystem as well as right tools and has accelerated adoption for them. And from McGraw Hill Education, as Jay mentioned, it is extremely important to invest early in the proof of concept, and then prove that proof of concept in a legacy organization in a conservative approach, overpromise, underpromise, overdeliver, and invest in a proof of concept and go with a let's go do it attitude, so that you can optimize further later on as you learn about more and more things. So thank you very, very much to Markku as well as Jay. These are the 8 tips that I shared with you today. And if you have any questions or concerns or any suggestions on how to use and any further feedback that you would like to give, please take down my email address and send me an email. And I would love to get your feedback as well. There are survey feedback forms as well, so that you can give us more constructive feedback, so that we can work on it. Thank you again for spending the time and coming over to this session. I wish you all the best for the rest of the conference. Thanks a lot.